You're listening to Beyond the Metagame, a podcast where two experienced competitive Super Smash Bros. Players look beyond the controller to analyze and break down the unspoken psychological framework of the competitive scene. Welcome, broadcasting to the entirety of the Super Smash Bros. Community. This is Beyond the Metagame. I'm your host Peon, this week live from YouTube. I'm joined, as always, by wonderful co-host Abhi. Abhi, how's it going, big boy?
Why am I getting told by all these weird voices to like, comment, and subscribe? These people are saying repulsive things in the chat.
Look, Abhi, this isn't Twitch. Okay? YouTube. And YouTube, there has to be some level of profanity in the comments, but that isn't necessarily so true, Abhi. Like, that might have been true like in 2009. Now on YouTube and also on other explicit sites that are video-oriented, the comments seem so happy. They seem so communal, like the whole world might be being totally destroyed by a pandemic and by other terrible events that are happening. But the online comment board space has been more positive than ever. I'm frankly at least very excited about that.
Yeah, it was kind of low blows. The fruit was not hanging too far above my head. So I'll give you that.
Well, I think it might be a fair question. Why the hell are we, on YouTube? Why am I saying this? Normally I'd say something like we're in some Chilean enclave or we're in Michelle Obama's basement or something. No, today we're on YouTube. And that's because I do want to acknowledge the fact that we are reigniting the Beyond the Metagame YouTube channel. That's right. We are uploading the podcasts on our YouTube channel with video format. That means if you've ever wanted to see Abhi's tight torso and one of those turtlenecks or one of those what are those called, Abhi? Assless chaps. Now is
Steve Jobs or from the Thunder Down Under.
Yeah. Well, Abhi, either way, you're looking good today. There's only one way to see that, and that's to listen and watch the show on YouTube. And hey, look, I listen to podcasts. I don't watch podcasts, but rarely. That said, there's been quite a demand for this. I don't know why, Abhi. I think they hear every week I'm rambling about your raw sex appeal, and they're like, okay, let's put this to the test. And here we are, we're live, and it's going well so far.
I feel like I'm going to let someone down here. The expectations are too high.
I mean, that's part of your appeal, your humility. But I will say this. We do have a Beyond the Metagame marketing intern named Lewis, aka Rip Van Winkle in the Discord, and he's quite the task master, Abhi. I'm like a whipping post, and he's just beating that. He's the intern. He makes me get him coffee.
Yeah. I mean, I saw him actually take your desk and ask for the quarterly reports. So, I mean, I don't know what he's gonna do next. Like,
I don't even know who's on the quarter. You know what I mean? But so anyway, he asked that we make a call to action. I don't know what that means, but I've written down a note, and it's saying that I need to reference our YouTube channel. So if you do want to support us beyond just listening to the show, it'd be great if you could subscribe to the channel, give the podcast a thumbs up or a comment. Apparently that helps with the YouTube algorithm. And thank you so much for taking the time to look at us. You know what I mean? But I did reference our Discord server. I passed right over it, like a F10 over, I don't know, Nazi Germany. Is an F10 is that a real Warcraft? Either way.
I completely ignoring what you said. The funniest part about the YouTube format is that you get to see my actual reactions to all the stuff that Peon says.
now you can finally, if I say something whack, you can finally not condone it visually to not hold yourself accountable. Or previously you were complicit by your visual anonymity.
Yeah, that's funny. But yeah, our Discord, like you're saying, is a fantastic place to be. You can join and hang out with a bunch of like-minded individuals who just want to improve at Smash, look at the psychology of Smash, go beyond the metagame, hang out with me and Peon, play games with us and whatnot. And
Oh yeah.
additionally, I heard, Peon, that your
Mm.
Robinhood account is looking a little bad. I mean, I've made a few questionable trades. I put you on margin. You are deep in debt, my dude. What happened?
Yeah. People are telling me, yo, Peon, it's a bear market. All I know is my bare ass is walking down the street with a box over my head because I just lost my mortgage. I've been repossessed. I've been repossessed. My house has been repossessed, all due to a mismanagement of assets. You know, due to yourself, AV, and that's okay. We're on the rebound. That said, I'm putting all my stock into this Patreon succeeding. So we need the help more than I am proud to admit.
Yeah, good stuff, man. I would like to say that we are wrapping up the donation drive for the Black Lives Matter movement. I've been doing lessons for charity. I've been donating for every game that I lose in our hashtag matchmaking channel in Discord. I just did 2 lessons today, one with Ben 10, one with BayJ. Shout outs to both of them. And it's been really great. And the funny part is that it's like during these coaching sessions, I'm like trying to think of things to say. I'm trying to be useful. I'm trying to like have these nuggets of wisdom, and then someone comes along, our guest comes along and makes and just says everything that I've ever wanted to say during coaching. Just took these words right out of my soul. Korean was our guest for this week, and it was really, really fantastic, Peon.
Yeah, look, I loved talking to Korean. He had so much insight. And Navy, you and I are coaches of the game. We coach members of the community through Patreon, but we also, I mean, I think that in a way, this podcast is sort of like audio coaching. I think I even referenced that during an interview with Korean, where like we're giving general sort of like I don't know, like dad kind of advice. It's very zoomed out, but I hope that some of the nuggets that we have through ourselves, through the guests we've previously brought on, have sort of been like coaching, and even if it's a bit abstract, but Korean through a focused lens through his own expertise and through his own experiences as a coach, is able to state these concepts that we so nebulously discuss into practical, no nonsense advice, right? And I think it's going to be a very valuable listen to everybody who is interested in improving in Spanish.
Absolutely, man. Do you have anything else to say before we jump right into this?
I don't, man. All of that and more in just 1 second. Welcome back to Beyond the Metagame. This week, AV and I are joined by Korean. Korean is a coach of TSM. You know him for commentating, for playing, but most significantly, perhaps, for coaching players such as Tweek and Leffen, and formerly in Smash 4 specifically, CLG's Void. Korean, thank you so much for joining us.
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing well, man. So, as I mentioned, right now, perhaps most notably, you are the mastermind behind TSM's Smash space, specifically coaching Tweek and Leffen, who, in my mind, at least from the outside perspective, seem like such different players, personality wise, play style wise to an extent. What's that like for you? What's that relationship like, and what are your responsibilities within TSM as their coach?
Yeah, for both the players, I have it's. I mean, it's the same responsibility in general, but Leffen obviously very well known for his success in Melee and other games like Fighter Z, DBZ, and all the other stuff. He's just such a talented player for esports, and for me, I feel like, especially my job with Leffen, the main part is kind of there's so much to do in Ultimate in terms of like information of all the characters, right? So it's like kind of just making sure he knows what character he's going to go up against. Like in a bracket, it's like, okay, Diddy Kong, he might not know all the nuances of Diddy Kong because Diddy Kong wasn't in Melee. And then, a lot of the things from Smash 4, Diddy Kong does, but it's just like a little different, right? So Leffen didn't really play Brawl or Smash 4 competitively. So kind of just transferring the data and just giving him like the main points to know of said characters and just like the big takeaways because he doesn't like super, Ultimate's just not his main game, right? So kind of that, I feel like that's like more the main thing I'm doing for Leffen. As for Tweek, his main game was Smash 4, and a lot of Smash 4 things transferred to Ultimate. So it's more so kind of refining, and with Tweek 2, I wouldn't say his mentality is the worst, but like working on, the mental part of it was like a big like step for me. So that also, even like with previous experiences of, I think Void has a very strong mental. So that's even for me like something that I was growing as well, right? So it's like now I have to help this player. Still there's a lot of gameplay stuff to go over, but I mean Tweek's the second, now third best in the world. So in terms of that, like there is still a lot of things to discover and talk about and refine. But there's also like that mental part of the game, and I think Tweek has grown tremendously ever since I started with him in terms of the mental part and kind of opening up towards that. And yeah, I mean, so far so good. I've been having a great time coaching for TSM. I really enjoy coaching both of those players, Tweek and Leffen. They're both very, very talented, and they're very easy to work with.
Yeah, and like you talked about this like growing like with the players as like a coach. There's a lot of like ground that needs to be broken. And as far as coaching in Smash Bros is considered, I'd say you'd be considered one of the first like mainstay coaches for an esports team. I think it's not unheard of in Smash, but it's like we have Hungrybox's coach who's really famous, but I'd say this is a lot of new ground that you're covering along the way. Like, what's been a really big challenge for you, like growing as a coach in a game that really doesn't have a lot of precedence in terms of coaching infrastructure and fundamentals?
Yeah, that was tough, especially in Smash 4. I don't think there was no like Smash 4 coach on any tier 1 team. And going into Ultimate, I was just hoping that the game was big enough to the point where it like justifies a need for a coach. There was still coaching going on in Smash 4. At the very beginning of Smash 4, I coached Void from the begining all the way to the end of Smash 4, and then I coached Void maybe like pretty much until I got on TSM in the beginning of Ultimate. But I was never on like a tier 1 team for it, right? Like never part of the job description. I still did it, and I loved doing it, and I did like commission coaching. So, Void would help me out with certain things. He would pay for the coaching, and then on top of that, other players would pay for me to coach them. So I made money like that. It wasn't my main source of income, but overcoming that challenge and kind of just hoping that Ultimate's big enough, right? Because if Ultimate's big enough, then it justifies these teams to be able to be like, okay, like I want my player to win, or now there's like a bigger sense of competition because the entrance counts is getting bigger. It just has to be justified at the end, right? Because these tier 1 esports team, they're not going to invest into a game that's just not big. I mean, it's just not how it works, right? So I think Ultimate was, it was that big for, these other teams to kind of up the salaries of some of these players, even like invest more money overall, just like, hiring a coach or even hiring people for sheer content, right? Because content's so big in Smash. So I'm just glad that Ultimate blew up. Like it exceeded my expectations. I was very surprised to see some of the numbers for Ultimate when it started, just came into the scene. And even like in terms of like the tournament entrance, even like YouTube and Twitch numbers are just extraordinarily high. So I think that's like one of the main things. And it was kind of like, oh well, you coach throughout Smash 4 and you're still coaching throughout Ultimate. It's finally gonna pay off in terms of like you might get an opportunity with one of these tier 1 teams that want to invest heavily into Smash.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so cool, man. What an exciting time to be a Smash coach. And like Abhi was saying, it is kind of uncharted territory in a large way, right? The role is kind of, from the outside, it would seem like the role and your responsibilities and how you perform the task of preparing Leffen, Tweek, or any other player you might eventually end up coaching, or, the commissioned coaching that you offer. The way that you can tackle that, you can really make your own because there isn't so much of a precedent, and you have all the numbers behind it, you have the viewership behind it, and now you're kind of going to make it your own. And I'm curious. So Avi and I, in a way, this podcast is sort of like a Smash audio coaching session in a way. We try to break down the elements of the game when you aren't actually holding the controller in your hand, and sort of building the mentality that will enable growth within Smash. That's something that AV and I are both very interested in. And I wonder, as a coach, specifically as it relates to Tweek and Leffen, how much of your role is kind of keeping them motivated, keeping them in a good headspace, and how much of it is more mechanical, analytical things like, hey, look, this enemy opponent that you're seeded to play against has a spot dodge habit, or this is how that player fishes for kills, or hey, these are the percent ranges for certain kill confirms you have against this character. Like, how would you break down sort of a pie chart of what you actually implement to prepare your players?
I would say it's definitely like half and half. I mean, obviously, some players might need more attention to certain other things. It's kind of mainly whenever I theorycraft, and I think theorycrafting at top level is the main part of like what a tier 1 team is paying a good coach to do. Because I don't get me wrong, I can coach any level of player, and obviously the lower the level player, the easier it is because it's more like you spot dodge all the time, or like it definitely like
Yeah.
it starts getting simplistic the more down you go, because like they have like extremely like whatever is being exploited is becoming a bigger and bigger thing, right? But
Yeah.
like when I have to review a VOD with Tweek versus Leo, that's when it gets really hard, because it's not necessarily like Tweek playing bad, but it's more so like Leo's just playing really well, and we have to theory craft certain matchups and certain play styles, right? And just really think about like, okay, how is he taking so much advantage? Like, where is he very strong at? Even breaking down matchups on paper, this is where you start getting the uncharted territory of like, there's no, oh yeah, just look that up on Google and it has all the matchup, right? Like this is like and this is the funnest part for me as a coach, is like breaking down and discovering the meta and just theory crafting it, right? So it's like, okay, like this character has these anti-airs, this is the ground game, this is the air game. Why does this character kind of have an advantage on this character? What parts does this character have an advantage on? Is it neutral? Is it disadvantage? Like everyone can gimp spacies, right? But like, well, how are you gimping X spacey? And like, how consistent can you be at it? Are you two framing something? Are you reactively edge guarding him? Like, because you always want consistency, right? So it's like, oh, if you can react, if it's humanly possible, can you reactively edge guard this character from this position just solely off reaction, even with double jump? And then when do we start guessing? When you start guessing, that's when the chances start tripping down and all that good stuff. So for me, it's like the funnest part for me about coaching top level is you're really trying to break the meta down that's not even established, right? And you're trying to get
Yeah.
that extra step ahead
Yeah.
and be able to like crack the code, but the code is always changing, right? The meta will always like keep on evolving, right? And I mean, look at Melee. Melee is a game that's been out for so long, and the meta just keeps developing, keeps going on. And they even sometimes find new tech, which is crazy. So
Yeah.
I mean,
That's so interesting, that concept of you being sort of a meta pioneer, right? And actually not just thinking about it. I think all Smash competitors, we think about it, we're interested in like, where's this game headed? But it's your livelihood, right? So that's like, I think there's a pretty big difference.
oh yeah.
Like, so I guess to follow up on that, like, where do you think the game is headed? Is there something that we should be bracing for? Do you know something we don't?
That's a great question, because we're obviously with the COVID going on, there's a big pause on kind of the whole world, but I think Smash is going in a great direction. It's very accessible. The Switch is a very successful console. Like let's just go to the Switch. The Switch
Yeah.
is amazing. The Wii U was a humongous flop for me. It was just like the box that I played Smash on, right? The Smash box,
Yeah.
essentially. But the Switch is such a huge successful system, so a lot of people just have the Switch, which then like, I mean, Smash Bros has to be, I don't know the exact numbers, it has to be like some of the top 3 or top 5 games sold on the Switch at least. It's
Yeah.
a very big deal. And so that alone is just getting a lot of people more just in tune with Smash in general. Even if they didn't know about it, maybe they know about it now with Ultimate, and it brings back all the characters from all the previous games. So anyone that liked anything about a previous game, there's a bigger chance that they come back for Ultimate. And even just how they made some of the base engines, and I mean, this is a more controversial topic, but I think overall, like the way they simplified some of the things, like there's not a lot of tech or anything like that. There's still technical characters, right? But there's no like crazy skill barriers, which would really uninvite some players to play the game, right? So when a lot of people come in, it just feels good to play. for the most part. A lot of people can just like come in with almost no experience, and it still feels like easier to like get into, right? And that's a big deal going. And I mean, most games are kind of going toward that. That's why even like real-time strategy games are kind of falling out and stuff like that. Now I'm going in a rabbit hole, but nonetheless, I think Smash is in a really good place. The DLC is very, very hype. And yeah, it seems like Nintendo wants to stay with. I mean, I feel like they're going to ride the Switch as long as possible, right? It's such a successful system. I just feel like they're going to go with it for quite some time. I feel like Ultimate's going to last at least 5 years total, at least, and I even think it's going to be longer, just because of how successful the system is, how successful the game is, and yeah, I think we got a bright road ahead of us. And I think if the community just sticks together and keeps on trucking along, maybe even a miracle would happen. I don't suspect it, but like maybe Nintendo will come down and give us their blessing. But if not, we've proven that we can like move the community forward regardless, right? So
yeah, well, you briefly touched on the global pandemic that we're all experiencing right now, and I actually wanted to hear your thoughts on how you think this is going to affect the metagame of Smash on a local level and on a top level. I mean, do you think that the meta after this whole thing is over for the most part is going to be unrecognizable? Are the people who are grinding right now, do you think we're going to really see that pay off? Or, I mean, how are you preparing your two, competitors right now when it's pretty much a mandated off season?
it's you can still practice with Wi-Fi. Obviously, like there's just less to do because a big part of for me the coaching a big thing that takes up a lot of time is traveling to these events, right? So just even like just traveling and being at the events, being with the players, that all in itself is a lot of the work. But so there's definitely less to do, and there's definitely less data to go off of. And then even the data that we do have, it's Wi-Fi, right? So it's like, oh well, like I don't know how good the connection was. So like, could you have reacted right there? You know what I mean? Like I could be going over a VOD, and there's just a lot of these variables that we don't know, we don't control. So I do think players can still get better, and I do think the meta is still evolving. But right now, it's just weird because it's like a Wi-Fi meta. So there's going to be characters that are stronger on Wi-Fi, like Sonic or Ness, or any even like characters like Cloud are really strong on Wi-Fi. Any character that has like the more set play you have, essentially, the better it is because your opponent has less time to like work with in terms of reaction, right? So, I mean, we're kind of experiencing a Wi-Fi meta, but there's a lot of players that got extremely good off of just Wi-Fi practice alone. Most of Tweek's practice is Wi-Fi, so a lot of people. I mean, if you watch his stream and stuff, you know that. So, yeah, I do think players can still get better, but I think the offline top level meta is kind of at a standstill, and we can't really replicate that like meta because we're playing online, right? So
Right. Yeah, it's actually interesting. We get that question a lot. People will ask us, is it worth playing Wi-Fi? Is it worth training on Wi-Fi, especially if there's no one, if there's kind of a weaker region or if there's less people in their local scene to play with? What would you kind of recommend to people like that have to train on Wi-Fi or are thinking about training on Wi-Fi to think about when they're maybe trying to like use this as really serious time to get better?
I would just, no matter how frustrating. So the main, like, I feel like the main problem is when people play Wi-Fi. I mean, of course, you want to look at like who won and who lost, right? But like, there's just sometimes where you have to accept, and I mean, this can be applied in an offline outlook too, but even more so on Wi-Fi because sometimes it's just like, oh, like I hit my nair and I'm gonna kill setup into my up smash, but then a lag spike it, and then I inserted the up smash, and then like this,
Yeah.
like one frame of lag happened, and then like my up smash disappeared. Wi-Fi just ate my input, right? And then most like the knee-jerk reaction is to get mad. It's like, oh, grr, I should have won or whatever, right? And then like he comes back, he rage kills you, whatever, right? So
That's what I
just,
do.
well, right. I mean, it's just, I mean, humans in general, like if you just have emotion and you're trying to win, like that's going to be the first thing. But the main thing is to conquer the frustration and just be able to look outside of that. It's like, oh, hey, like I lost that match on Elite Smash or against my friend. Like this, realistically, this is Wi-Fi on Elite Smash. Like no one cares. At the end of the day, like I'm playing to improve X. And I feel like most players like get on Elite Smash to win, which is fine, but that's where I feel like the frustration will make it so unbearable to the point where you're like, F this, I'm not gonna play Wi-Fi. And then like then you don't play or practice Smash at all. And I will say this, like, compared to not playing Smash at all or playing Wi-Fi is a million times better than the other option.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
So I totally, I mean, that's some straight wisdom. I agree with everything you just said. And you did sort of touch on the concept of playing Wi-Fi to improve on X, right? Maybe not focusing on the win or loss, but focusing on some part of the process that you can later refine or learn from. What would be that X for you? Like, what specifically would you direct people to try to glean from their online play?
I feel like the main thing you want to do is, like, if I mean, this is a pretty easy one. Like, if you hate or dislike fighting a certain character, chances are you probably lose to him a lot. So that's where you can start. It's like, oh, like, roll eyes, like it's a Samus, right? So obviously there's something. Just fighting Samus on Wi-Fi is just, it can be irritating. Again, you're going up against set play, but you have to really. I mean, and you can even save your replays from playing Wi-Fi, right? So you can kind of just, like, look at your replays after, or just experiencing it, like, oh man, I'm really bad at, like, X situation. Puts a bomb down. I always jump. He fares me. Like, I need to try to, like, get past the situation. And if you keep doing, like, the more times you get hit after that situation, you're trying different things. You're finding out all the things that don't work, right? So I mean, there's that. So just being able to pinpoint, like, situations where, like, you just suck at, right? Like, and I'll use myself for example. There's heavy characters that, like, I probably should be able to beat really easily, but my ledge trapping's not consistent enough, right? So then they live, I get rage killed at 50, they're at 180, boohoo, right? And but
Yeah.
it's at the end of the day, the core problem is, like, I'm not able to finish these kills off or finish them on the ledge, which is, like, where their weakest point is. This is why they're inconsistent just in general. So then I can see, like, oh, I'm fighting a K roll. Like, let's see if I can kill him before 200%, if I can finish off the ledge trap. And that's when you can start being able to pinpoint your weaknesses and be able to work on those specific areas. And it's really easy to pinpoint the weaknesses because they're probably things you get frustrated at, and they're probably the reasons why you're losing. So
Yeah.
I
Yes.
love that.
Yeah. Speaking about getting frustrated, something that I really like that you mentioned was that you had this dichotomy of going from Void, a player with an extremely strong mentality. This is very clear when you look at Void streams or when you watch him play. He's very reserved, very process oriented. He's like a lot. He's a player that I've looked up to in that regard a lot. And while Tweek, an extremely talented player in his own, as you said, there has been some parts about his mentality. And we get a lot of people, and a lot of people are frustrated, and a lot of people have mentality issues. And I'm really interested in how you work on that and how you move forward helping someone with their mentality in Smash, because I think that's just such a pervasive issue in the community that I think it's worth addressing.
yeah, I think the biggest part, and this goes beyond, like, all levels of play. This can be a problem at the top. This can be a problem at the bottom. But I think the biggest part is, like, controlling your ego, because most of the time, like, if you think about it, right, if you lose a tournament set to MKLeo, you're not going to be pissed. Like, that's going to be a very expected outcome for 99.9999 players, right? Like, I just lost tournament set to MKLeo, like, very expected. And, like, you're not going to be frustrated, for the most part, right? Unless, like, you had him on the rope somehow and you were just playing godlike and it was like game 5 last knockout, then you might be a little pissed. But at the end of the day, if you're not PGR'd and you got him to that situation, you're literally going to brag about, oh man, I took Leo game 5 last stock last hit, no big deal, right?
Yeah.
And that all just branches back to ego. I've read a good amount of books on ego. Ego is the Enemy is, like, a really popular book about ego. I read that. It's a really good book. Highly suggested. But yeah, being able
You
to
called
control that.
Ego is Enemy. Is that the name of the
Ego
book?
is the enemy.
Oh, Ego is the enemy. Okay, check it
Yeah.
out.
Very, very good book. But yeah, it's a lot of it stems from ego, because essentially once you're able to look at everything just objectively, then it becomes way easier. But we're humans, right? It all comes back to, like, okay, we're humans and we have emotions and we have ego and blah blah blah, right? But when you're able to, and I mean, I sound like this, but when I used to, like, compete really seriously and stuff, I would get very pissed. I would, you know what I mean? Like, I'm definitely not the perfect angel. And I mean, that's how I'm able to like just kind of know, because I've been in those shoes before as well, and I've just observed so many different people. But a lot of the times, it's mainly ego, and being able to just really objectively look at something and be like, okay, I lost because of this. Like, even if there's like a lot of people will default and they'll blame something else. They'll blame a character. You're playing really lame, or they literally will say anything but, you know what, man, you just outplayed me. But like, instead of saying that, like, I've heard a million different other reasons why someone lost, or you know what I mean. So uh, that is probably like the most and biggest issue for most players trying to like conquer and grow. And if you're able to gain control of your ego, that's when it becomes a lot easier. And because that's when you start just like, oh, you know what, like, at the end of the day, I'm not good at this, so I need to just work on it. It's very
Yeah.
simple, but controlling emotions in general is just very, very difficult, and
Yeah.
usually requires like you to know the situation or understand it or try to be comfortable. But I mean, and that's why even for me, um, just going down this whole like coaching adventure, so to speak, I kind of went like, I've read different coaching books, and mixed it in with my experience, and even reading books like Ego's the Enemy and stuff like that. Like, I'm definitely not a psychiatrist, but I think you have to kind of like try and understand some of the psychology, the psych parts of esports
Yeah.
and sports in general.
Yeah. No,
Absolutely.
and it sounds to me like, we're talking about forgoing all sort of emotion and adopting total and complete accountability. And I find that while, once you accept that things are your fault, it's both a blow to your confidence, but it's also liberating in a sense, because the moment it becomes your problem, it's your fault. Well, then you're also admitting that you have the power to change it, right? And that's so liberating. I think that's a really good lesson, Korean. I couldn't have said it better. Um, we talked about this sort of universal problem that we as a Smash community have, being our mindset in tournaments. And I'm wondering if there's anything else universal that you see, maybe lower mid-level players complain about, problems you find in their game or their mentality that's like, guys, if you only just did this or this, you would improve much, much quicker.
Um, I'm actually reading a book right now called Mastery by Robert Greene. Another really good book. I'm not finished with it yet, but so far it's like phenomenal. I think one thing I noticed when just reading the book and just being like, oh, hey, that's like something Smashers don't do kind of thing, is trusting the process. And that's like that was the stage of apprenticeship in the book, and not trusting and the reason why I say this is there's so many people that come into the Smash community and they're like, oh man, like, I've the game hasn't even been out for it's been out for a little over a year now, right? And there's so much people that just like come in and they're like, oh man, but I did this, and I didn't win. You know what I mean? Like, I practiced this and I practiced that and I didn't win. And so much people are result orientated, and that's like their main goal, and they're not thinking about like the long term. They're not thinking about growing, right? So even and this general mentality of not trusting the process, and trusting the process is like, okay, like, I'm going to study, I'm going to try and find a mentor, I'm going to practice and try to work on my weaknesses, and even having that more so long term thinking where it's like, oh man, like, I could beat this guy by doing this one cheesy thing that probably wouldn't work on other players, but or I could practice like other fundamental stuff, right? That is probably harder, and I'll probably lose more during the practice, but I just want to win during practice, because that's all they tunnel vision on like W's, right? So they
Yeah.
keep like really reverting to that one strategy that one player is super weak against, which is great versus that player, but overall, are you growing, right? And this is something that Void was extremely good at when I was coaching him, because we lived in Hawaii for about like the first year ish of the game, and he was a lot better than most of the people that was on Hawaii. And I mean, Hawaii is just a small island, right? So he was able to get a lot of valuable practice, even playing against players that were not as great as him by like a good margin, because he's able to like practice in different ways, even though he's not, like, it's hard to put it in words, but he's able to get an extreme amount of value, even though he's playing someone like significantly worse than him, because he's like practicing exactly certain things, or he's not just trying to destroy them or whatever, right? He's
Yeah.
he's practicing things that he's weak at, and even though it may be closer, or he loses certain matches sometimes in friendlies, but like his mentality in going into practice is not to win during practice; it is to specifically work on things he's weak at, and he'll even ask people that he's better than on like, oh, what do you think I could work on and stuff like that, right? So like just having that like long-term mentality and trusting the process is a very, very big deal that a lot of people don't even really take into account, and they just, like I said, a lot of people just tunnel vision for the win, which is, especially during practice, it's like, and I even said that with Wi-Fi, right? When you get on Wi-Fi and you're practicing on Wi-Fi, like yeah, you want to win, but like you're mainly trying to work on, you should be working on specific things you're not good at.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the most like important thing that I think I see a lot when I'm playing people too is like what you said. People just want to use these cheesy strategies just to pull out those W's and friendlies. But in my opinion, like improving is not just this like linear mountain. It's like you are taking a step back every now and then to like integrate this new tech or integrate this new mindset in a game, and you're gonna take like a few losses in friendlies when you're going through those growing pains of integrating that technique, and just being okay with that is something that's super important, because you can't just practice something, and you can't just not practice something or like a really hard tech in friendlies and then expect to have it in real tournament environments when you really need it most. So I think that's huge. I think that's really cool. In terms of Wi-Fi, I think there's that really interesting point where in terms of the accountability, I think that's a lot of the hard part for people. You have on one end, you have the fact that it's Wi-Fi, so you don't have to take everything seriously, and then on the other end, it's like, it's like, how do I hold myself accountable for my play? And how do you go around balancing that when you have this like these opposing forces of one, you shouldn't be holding yourself accountable for things that aren't your fault, and you should be holding yourself accountable for a lot of things that are.
I think the main part is just understanding like like what you have control of during the situation, right? Like if a lag spike happens, you lose a kill for it, you would have won. Then like that's just something that you shouldn't really like beat yourself up over or get frustrated about. It's like, at the end of the day, like you got the W. Like this, you could complain about it and focal point on it, and then build frustration out of it, or you could just be like, oh, okay, cool, you got the W. Right, and then but that's hard to do because like no one wants to lose, especially even if it's like a Wi-Fi tournament on stream and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to let the world know that the lag ate my input on up smash and I should have won. Like that's like again the knee-jerk reaction, right? But you just have to hold yourself accountable over situations you had control of, and then if you had control of a situation and you made an X decision or whatnot, that's when it's like, oh, okay, like I could have maybe done this, like you could have maybe done this, and or that, and that's when it's like, okay, I'm holding myself accountable for things I had control over, and then don't really try and like stress too much about things that were outside of your control. You can't do anything about it. You probably will never be able to do anything about it, because even in a situation where like a lag spike hits, right, there's no way to improve on playing during a lag spike because it's just a variable you cannot control. So kind of just let that go or whatnot. And I think that's like the main like factor you want to think of in those situations.
That's really well put. Korean, I do want to pivot a little bit, and well, perhaps I should give some background. In the last couple of weeks, people have been hammering on about this sort of hard work versus talent debate on Twitter as it relates to Smash. AV and I actually talked about it last week, and you know, I was reminded about this debate when thinking about your role as a coach and how you've helped players like Void, like Leffen, like Tweek, but also through your own commissions that you do where you work with people one on one. So you've seen a lot of people's different perspectives, and also you've just been in that scene for quite a long time. So you've seen a lot of very high level smashers in their most raw form, and I'm curious if specifically with Tweek, Void, and Leffen, if there's something singular about their success, like is there a commonality between them that enables them to be so dominant, or did they all rise to their own respective dominance through different means?
Yeah, this is a topic that I actually didn't speak too much about on Twitter, but I've talked with many different people about it, and even like in a lot of the books I read, they talk about it. I actually think like it's so hard to say because talent, it I feel like talent is like base stats, but you can always like improve on base stats. So for example, I'll use Void as my first example. So Void, I don't even think Void is the most talented Smash player from Hawaii. Fun fact. I actually think he's the third most talented player in terms of just when I look at base stats. I think the most like sheer, just raw talented player in Hawaii is War. He was a Snake player in Brawl, and then in Smash 4 he played Ryu, and then Ultimate I don't think he plays too much, but he plays like K. Rool and Snake. That dude had like insane game sense and reaction time, and it like amazed me because I know how much time he puts into the game and like what he's able to do with that little time. Like to me, that's when like talent is the most relevant in my opinion, or like that's at least what like most people's definition of it is. Like when given a very little amount of resources or time, like this dude's just really good in the beginning, right? But that like to me that doesn't really matter in terms of like the long game or the long haul, because when you grind you can just become a lot better, and it's like it's more so the effectiveness of the time you put into your grind, right? Like if I'm able to grind 3 hours a day but it's the same as like 6 hours of someone else's grind, I'm obviously just gonna in the long run beat them, just and if we put the same amount of time and work. So being efficient with how you train and not just being like, I'm just gonna get on and play Smash. What's your like objective? Like, what are you trying to do during this time? And having like focused and concentrated practice and being able to like know what you're working on and stuff like that. Like just having effective practice is so important. So yeah, like I said, yeah, and like I said, there, War being the most talented player from Smash player from Hawaii, in my opinion, and then Lethal Trilogy being like the second most talented Smash player coming from Hawaii. LT was the number one in Brawl, pretty much the whole lifetime of Brawl. When he played Smash 4, he played about for like the first 6 months or so, really seriously, and he was ranked number 2, right behind Void, and he was pretty much the only person that could like take sets off of Void or get it really close. So again, another very very talented player, but Void was was the one that was able to make a career out of Smash, of any Smasher in Hawaii as a player at least. So
Yeah.
I mean that's just one example, but that just shows like Void had incredible work ethic, and he was able to go under me, and like I said I would coach him at the very beginning, and I was like I'm gonna make a crazy training schedule, and he just got out of high school, so he didn't really have much to do, and yeah, he just played Smash for a ridiculous amount of time. Like I would say probably like an average of 50 to 60 hours a week.
That's a job.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Like
he's working overtime.
Yeah, that is a bit of overtime.
That's a job and a half.
There would be times where I'm like, oh, okay, like you should take a break today, and he would still play Smash 4 on his day off. Like that's how much he wanted it, and that's like he took anything I said like extremely seriously. He undergo any like training program. I would like would write out like training schedules and stuff like that. I would like wake up, go to my like 8-hour shift job, and then come back, and like he would be playing Smash when I would leave to go, and then I'll get back from work, and he's still playing Smash, and then he's like, oh hey, you want to play? And then I'll play with him. Like he played a lot. His work ethic is really what carried him, and like just his inclination to Smash. Like he was so obsessed with the process, and Void is very good at like the way he thinks, he wants to learn how to learn. So he just like once he gets in that groove, he just doesn't stop. He keeps going. He doesn't get bored, or even if he does get bored, he like just fights it off, and he's just able to zone into one thing and just get really really good at it.
That's incredible, man. I do fear for Leffen and Tweek now. I imagine them just like in a Smash like workshop overseas, sweating. I feel like we might need to like, I don't know, redo some labor laws, Korean, but hey, you can't argue with the results.
Yeah.
You cannot argue.
And Tweek was someone who played since Brawl. Played a lot of Brawl Wi-Fi. Competed in Smash 4. I believe he competed towards the ending of Brawl as well. And then, like, even when I first saw Tweek, I knew he was going to be really good, and I knew it because, well, it depended if you played a top tier. So he was like the best junior, and I would watch him play, and it's just like, man, the character he's playing was just like blatantly holding him back. And I like rejoiced when I heard that he was going to play Cloud. Like when he said, "I'm
Yeah.
going to main Cloud," I really like this character. I was like, finally, Tweek is going to play someone really, really good, and he's a great example of like Tweek is really talented, and it really bloomed when he picked up Cloud. And even like he lived in Jersey, and I mean Tri-State had like was pretty much the strongest scene for Smash in Brawl. At the very beginning of Smash 4 it was like the strongest pretty much, and then it kind of like divvied up towards like the last half of Smash 4 with other like regions on the come up. But nonetheless, he was in an environment where he could just thrive. There's so many resources in terms of players he could play against, and and there's all these people around him guiding him to that because he was like the younger of the bunch. So there were so many different options for like mentors or people that want to help him out. So he really took advantage of that and just took off. And especially when like towards the ending of Smash 4, he was just totally destroying people, and he was able to really like take that and go with it. And it's interesting too because even on Tweek's mentality, a lot of people will just say that his mentality is bad. I actually think it's not that bad. It's more so it's like he has like a double-edged sword mentality where like if he's the one winning the mental war, he's just literally gonna completely break you down, and it's gonna be like insanely. It's gonna look crazy. And I've seen him do
Yeah.
that to like many top players. Like I've seen him do it to Leo in Smash 4. Like literally make him look like free. You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
on the flip side, if it starts turning against him to the point where he feels like they're in his head kind of thing, it goes really south really bad. So like I said,
Yeah.
I don't think he has a bad mentality. He just has a very double-edged sword mentality where like he's either in complete control, or once it topples over to a certain point, that's when it can get really bad. And kind of for me, my goal was to try and get that more on the consistent side towards the part where he's like more so in the driver's seat, right? So he just has a very different mentality, so to speak.
Yeah, I can't think of a more terrifying smasher to fight in bracket than a very confident Tweek. I've played Cloud Tiddos with Tweek, actually, a 2GG West Side Saga. He
Nice.
wouldn't remember, but it was a long time ago in Smash 4. And my Cloud versus his Cloud, it really wasn't much of a contest, but I've been such a huge fan of his ever since because he just has that. There's something about his playstyle. I think that you talked about recognizing it in his Bowser Jr., but it's that certain sort of confident killer instinct that is just so suffocating to play against and to watch. It's so exciting. And you touched when speaking about Void about that concept you recognize as being more important than talent, the base stats, as you put it, which was the proclivity to practice over long periods of time productively, right, and with a specific objective in mind. And I have to say, with your other competitor, Leffen, when I was working my 9 to 5, and right when Smash Ultimate first came out, and I was just like itching to go home and play some Smash, I had Leffen's Twitch channel up on my browser, and I would peek whenever I could take a little break. And just the way that he would attack the very core of the game and question things and investigate and prod and try to deeply understand what he was doing, why he lost, what the keys to success were. Like a great detective, like a Sherlock Holmes kind of a figure, because he knew that coming from Melee, he was at a bit of a disadvantage with this title as opposed to Smash 4 players. And that, I have to agree with what you're saying that perhaps it is that simple, that commonality among the best of us is their tenacity to practice with intent. Like I think you summed it up. I think that's it.
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, a lot of it too is you do that, but it's like when you get that core, but it's like how do you get that going, right? And getting perspective from other people, and like even when you get perspective from other people, just because someone says something is not necessarily just law, even if they're like better than you or whatnot, right? You just want more perspective, and even in terms of you know knowledge of the game. I might have like a slight edge on some of the players, but for the most part, most of the top players, like in terms of game knowledge, we're pretty much on equal footing. But I'm there more so to give like different perspectives, right, and just kind of be able to like theory craft and walk through those certain situations. And that's like the main thing. I feel like a lot of people will think like, oh, a coach is like some all-knowing person of the game, and they just like tell the player exactly what to do. But again, in Smash, it's not that structured, right? So it really comes down to, especially with Smash coaching, and I'm pretty sure it's like this for other sports as well. But I mean, I just wouldn't be able to tell you off of experience, kind of thing. But it's a lot of it is just being able to like that core theory crafting, right? It's the core theory crafting, and being able to give the player different perspectives, different ways to tackle stuff, just so they have more mix and all that other stuff. And and then obviously there's all the stuff outside the game, but just in the game, that's the main thing.
Cool, man. Well, I don't want to take too much of your time, Korean, but we do have one last little segment for you where we pulled together the combined wit, the combined curiosity of our Discord community to ask you sort of some lightning round Smash coaching questions. Okay, so some of these are kind of broad questions. I'm going to challenge you to answer like in 10 seconds or less. Okay, are you up for the challenge?
I'm ready.
Okay. Avi, you want to fire off the first one? Go back and forth?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. First question is, what is your least favorite character to coach and coach against?
Shotos. So Ryu, Terry, Ken. Yeah.
Fair enough. Rit Van Winkle asks, how to improve without grinding tech?
Work on fundamentals.
Jeb Stewart asks, what is the best character in the game?
Pikachu.
Westchester
again asks, can you tell a player's skill ceiling when you first start coaching them?
No, because I don't really think skill ceilings exist, because that's something that people like kind of put on themselves.
What are your steps to VOD review?
I like to look at interactions and pause them. So it's like I usually do VOD review really slow. Obviously, I can do a fast VOD review, but usually go really slow, kind of go over every decision, and kind of even when I'm asking certain players, I'm like, did you react there, or are you reacting to this jump? Like if they do a move, right, and it's like, wow, that was really fast after the ledge jump. Like, did you just guess that or react to that? Stuff like that. Like the main part of VOD review is I need to understand when, how, and why players make a decision. Then that's when I can critique them.
Cool. Peon asks, that's me. Would you rather coach a player with no tech skill and a great mental game, or a player with tech skill mastery and a poor mental game?
First.
What is your greatest indicator of potential?
Work ethic.
Ding, ding, ding. Woo! Korean. Beautiful. 7 for 7. Passed the line. Actually, to be fair, the VOD review question, the answer was a little long, but to be fair, it's a pretty loaded question.
It deserved it. It deserved a little bit of a longer answer. I don't think you could answer that one quickly.
Well, Korean, it was a real pleasure picking your brain. I'm sure that our listenership is going to appreciate that, and hearing all your perspective. If our listeners want to thank you for coming on the show, where can they best reach you?
If I have open DMs, so if you have any questions, obviously, like if you ask me about like matchups, or you want me to like coach you for free, that's not like a thing. But I do have open DMs, and you can ask me questions here and there, and I always just check my DMs. So yeah, my DMs are open on Twitter. That's probably the best place you can contact me. And my is it's at Korean808. I changed it a little bit before, so I just make sure.
Sure thing. That will be in the show notes in the YouTube description. Korean, I do know that you do commission coaching as well. Is that a service that you still offer, that you're looking to have more players to coach?
So before COVID happened, I was not per my contract, I wasn't able to like coach other players other than Leffen and Tweek. But because of the COVID situation and there's no real like offline tournaments, TSM said that I am allowed to do commission coaching. So I am doing commission coaching, and you can check it out. It is my pinned tweet on Twitter. So yeah, all the information is there.
Cool, man. Well, hey, thanks again for coming on, and I hope that this pandemic ends soon so you can get back to coaching your boys.
Yep. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Beyond the Metagame. AV, that was our interview with the legend himself, Korean. That was so enlightening and so fun.
Yeah, I learned so much. I had a lot of the intuitions and a lot of these things that I kind of thought about the game or thought about coaching reaffirmed. It was a nice repetition of the stuff that we said last week. It really enforced the fact that even the coach for the number one esports organization in North America is claiming that hard work, a very smart practice, can get you to the top, even if you aren't the most talented person on the block.
Yeah, I don't want to misquote Korean. I think he spoke for himself quite eloquently throughout that interview. But at least what I got out of the interview was, accountability and diligence and specific practice over long periods of time. Trusting that process leads to results, leads to success. And I think that I don't know Korean that well. You don't either. I think we've both had brief interactions with Korean in the past. And whether we're watching him on stream or whether we bump into him at a tournament. But I didn't really understand fully, other than appreciating his commentary, how knowledgeable he seemed about the game. I didn't understand exactly what his coaching mind would be like. That's part of the reason why I was so excited to get him on the show. But I mean, what a perfect person to be in his position. To me, after speaking with him, not that I was skeptical or anything before, but after talking to him, I really understand, how he's so qualified to be the Smash coach. Just level-headed, sound advice, and a very intellectual and reasonable guy to work with, I'm sure. So big shout outs to Korean. It was awesome that he could come on the show.
Absolutely. And those nuggets of wisdom that he carefully fetched from that river of knowledge that coursing through his brain.
River of knowledge. It's like, are you like Plato now? It's just like Greek mythology, just like sidestepping.
Nah, this is 49ers panning for gold.
Oh, you're going like Northern California with it. You're appealing to the home team.
Yeah,
I live in gold country. You know that? I live in the foothills of California.
Got any luck?
I have panned for gold. That's a big thing. If you grew up in the Sacramento area of California where the gold rush occurred, the common field trip is you go to the river and you pan for some gold at some point. But the craziest thing, Abhi, is that there's this other thing called fool's gold. Okay? What are the chances that out of like there's a super valuable, super useful, beautiful mineral, an element called gold, and at the same time, there's a worthless but also beautiful element that looks exactly like gold that isn't gold? Like, what are the chances of that? Like, what a cruel world we live in.
That is true. Can you find pyrite in gold mines?
I don't know about in gold mines
or in gold rivers.
Yeah. So like, if you pan for gold, or if you in the rivers, the American River and the rivers near where the gold rush occurred, there's way more pyrite than there is gold.
Oh,
so
wow.
you can find a lot of pyrites. Like, so when you're little, you're like, "Sweet mom, we're rich." It's just like, no, Dane, God is cruel, and that isn't real. And you're like, oh, and that's how you learn.
Hey, I learned it early. It's good.
Yep.
That's all right. Well, in any case, it was awesome talking to you and Korean today. Where can people find you on Twitter and
Look, man, I've been down on the Twitter sphere as of late because it's frankly the world events that are going around us, whether it be political, whether it be biological, whether it be cultural. There's been a lot of negativity out there, and not without reason, but it's been a pretty depressing time to be on social media for sure. And as a result, I've been requiring that people reach me on Twitter at beyondthemetagame@gmail.com. But I want some positivity in my Twitter feed. I want to counteract, right? A positive and a negative equals neutral, and my neutral in Smash could always use a tune-up. Beside the point. So you can find me on Twitter at Peon_GCE. That's Peon_GCE. That's Golf Charlie Echo for all of you farmers.
What, you're back to GCE?
Wait, did I say GCE? Oh no, that was like a glitch in the Matrix. That's not right. False alarm. My Twitter is Peon_BTM. That's right. Peon_BTM. That's Bravo Tango Mike. I'm not gonna do that thing again, but it's BTM. That's my bad. AV, where can people find you, my friend?
People have tried to find me. They've failed because my Twitter handle is A.
What's wrong with you? Where's your Twitter, AV?
Is A plus my long Indian last name. And the thing is that it's impossible to find. Where you can find it though, it's guaranteed to live at our podcast Twitter account. And Peon, where is our podcast Twitter account?
Yeah, I do know that one for sure this time. It is at Beyond Metagame. You heard me. At Beyond Metagame. The show you are currently listening to and watching on YouTube is called Beyond the Metagame. But Twitter does not give a hot damn, AV, and they never have. Frankly, I don't believe they will. But as for now, AV, that is all we have. Special thanks to Korean again. Guys, if you enjoyed Korean's presence on this program, if you enjoyed his insight, please do not hesitate to say, hey, man, thanks for being on the show. It helps us out, candidly. But also, like, he didn't have to come out. We're not paying him. That was just through his good nature of wanting to spread some Smash insights. So give him a big thank you on Twitter. And as always, thank you for listening. This week's episode was made possible in part due to the support of our patrons: BKR, Ultima, Booney, Campbell Soups, Cerebro, Danderson, Weasel, Hydra, Minlo, Pariah Sensei, Jack Pernicus, Dean Guy, Two Tacos, Donut, Dubai Poison, Fancy, Art Daily, Ferris, Kyle the Hero, Octave, Ringo, Robiert, Rubat the Dog, and Westchester.